I'm Sahani Shekha, MBA student at University of Sri Jayawardenepura. We have economic subject. For that, we have to do the proposal for economic and political stability in Sri Lanka. For the document, we have to interview Dr. Priyanka Dunusinghe, Senior Lecturer, Department of Economics, University of Colombo. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
So, as my first question, I want to ask from you, sir. Sri Lanka is now facing difficult situation after Easter attack and the corona pandemic situation, political instability and the change of partition policy. Sir, can you explain your opinion on the current situation in Sri Lanka and the economy of the Sri Lanka?
Yeah, thank you for giving me this opportunity to basically discuss the current economic situation with you, and we can broadly identify three factors that led to the current situation. First, we have some what we call the long-term structural issues in the economy. So those contributed to the present situation, and then we witnessed some negative impacts due to the pandemic starting from 2020, and the last we made some errors with respect to policy making, in particular the fertilizer ban and the decision to not to reach IMF in addressing the issues in the economy. So those three factors contributed to the current situation, which I could summarize again with three contexts. First, we have at the moment a situation of stagflation. Stagflation in the sense production decline while the inflation keep increasing. So when people losing jobs, income, their purchasing power further decline due to increase in prices. Second, we have a huge liquidity issue with respect to both dollar and rupee. To the economy we don't have dollar, to the government we don't have rupee. Third, we have the issue of debt unsustainability, where the Sri Lanka as a country cannot pay back its debt obligation. So as a result of that, we have defaulted at the moment. So all the issues that you could see with respect to the fuel crisis, gas, then the lack of medicine, and lack of then the restriction on imports, and even the sometime lack of other essential imports. All these are due to the issues that I raised earlier, mentioned earlier. So at the moment we know that we have lost around 700 to 900,000 jobs in the economy, and the economy has declined, recorded negative growth rate during the last 2 years, and it is expected this year it will record around 6 to 8% negative growth rate. That means altogether expected it will continue further. So it is expected that these economic difficulties to stay for another say 2 to 3 years in the economy. Any recovery will take around 4 years at least by the end of 2026, and in particular what we can see at the moment is economic contraction, so that the political unrest is mainly due to these economic
I
issues.
want to ask another question. In your discussion, you mentioned regarding the unemployment. So, can you explain any one proposal for the unemployment?
No, at the moment we need to. It is quite harder for us to basically promote small and medium scale industries in promoting employment.
Yes.
Because the demand in the market remain very low, not just in the domestic economy but even in the global economy. So we have to have one strategy for that is to develop livelihood development, promote livelihood development programs where in particular the low income people are assisted in getting into livelihood activities such as cultivation and related activities for the purpose of guaranteeing the survival.
Okay.
And at the same time, government has taken several steps in promoting foreign employment, and we have numbers right now for the first half of 2020 to around 147,000 people have gone abroad, and I saw in the news that 500,000 people have applied for the passport. That all itself reflect that people are eager in going abroad for looking jobs. In addition to foreign employment and livelihood development activities, it is important that government take steps in securing whatever the remaining jobs in the economy. For that, government must assist in promoting tourism sector and support the existing businesses, both the local and foreign investors. In order to do that, people should support in maintaining a stable political and environment, and I think in particular the trade unions and the other political parties and general public should extend their cooperation in maintaining a political stability, because it is very important in basically gradually get out of these economic difficulties.
And another question, sir. Our trade deficits increased rapidly after the open economy. Can you explain why and how it affects our current situation, basically in tourism industry? If you take as example in tourism industry.
No, I think it is quite clear that Sri Lanka had a negative trade deficit since during last 4 to 5 decades, and that means we import more or spend more than what we have, more than the income as a country. So how we feel this? Partly from foreign employment, partly from the loans that we obtain from abroad. But over the years, what we saw is that the amount that we wanted to borrow increased rapidly following higher dependency on imports. So in the current situation, to a great extent, is due to overspending. That means you have spent more than your capacity as a country, as well as an individual. So in that context, what is needed? Now temporarily we have taken certain measures in controlling imports and promoting our remittances. But I think in the long run we should focus more on promoting exports, both goods and services. In the context of services, tourism sector could play a key role, where that is one of the, I think, what we call one of the areas where that Sri Lanka has comparative advantage. Last month we got 47,000 tourists compared to around 21,000 in June, if we can maintain a stable, peaceful environment, if the people, trade union and political parties could support in maintaining a stable environment, I am sure that we have a greater capacity or the possibility in promoting tourism even in the short run to ease the existing difficulties in the economy.
As a Sri Lankan, we are going through a very tough time. Many economic experts are saying that also. This situation is going to be long term. In your opinion, what short term and long term measures should we take to overcome this situation?
Yeah, in particular, in the short run, we need to undertake some measures which could help the people who have faced some difficulties in the short run due to decline in production or loss of jobs and loss of income and increase in prices. I think a sizable segment in the society face huge difficulty in basically having their 3 meals per day. So government should extend some support in order to ease out their release the burden to some extent. For that, government must identify the right people who have been affected severely, and government must come up with some livelihood development activities for them. At the same time, should mobilize required resources both locally and internationally to support them. That is one of the key requirement in the short run. The next requirement in the short run is to start and speed up the dialogues with the IMF as well as with the creditors in order to come up with the IMF program and finalize it as soon as possible, so that we can get the, once it is finalized, we can get the bridging finance from some of the other multilateral and bilateral donors in order to meet the short term requirement. And at the same time, if we can finalize the debt rescheduling, that could basically help us in carrying out our financial obligation in a standard manner, or in a we can build up our reputation again. Yes. In a very short period. In the medium to long term, it is very important government focus on expanding the export sector. To do that, it is required to introduce new rules, regulation and reforms institutions, and actually government can declare a decade of export and gear up the public sector, private sector and non-profit organizers all into a one particular focus of export promotion. And at the same time, government should reform some of the key areas such as the public sector enterprises, the public service, as well as law and order related rules and regulations, and also improve the business environment, thereby addressing all these bribery, corruptions and other political interference and all these things. So those are some of the short run and the long run areas where the government should focus. Actually, we know what to do, but what is lacking is we don't do. So I think this is the time that government start implementing them within what we call the multi-party governance framework.
Okay, so currently the Central Bank of Sri Lanka takes many decisions such as monetary policies, interest rate hikes and import barriers. What do you think about these decisions? And these decisions are effective?
Yes, basically what we are right now doing, the central bank basically aim at downsizing the economy.
Yes, sir.
This, in order to do that, the central bank has increased the interest rate. Once the interest rate is high, when the interest rate is high, what happens? The investment come down, consumption come down, and the aggregate demand come down, and the economy get what we call contracted. This contraction is important because that can reduce the demand for imports, and also can basically reduce the inflation, can basically reduce the inflation, supply side impact, global commodity price related issues, and also the due to ban on fertilizer and due to number of reasons. Anyway, one of the main requirement at the moment is to control it. So the central bank has increased the interest rate in order to achieve multiple goals, stabilizing the currency, foreign exchange rate, and also controlling the imports and domestic inflation. I am sure it is working, but not to the extent that we expected. Still the inflation keep going up, and it is expected even it can reach a number closer to 100 in coming years, in particular with the increase of taxes under the IMF program. But we have no other option other than going for higher interest rate. Around the world, you can see even though Australia has increased by 7%, I think, as I saw. Even in the US, Fed has increased it. In all other countries have increased the interest rate in addressing the inflation rate. But in Sri Lanka, what is required most is addressing, controlling imports and stabilizing the external price, so the our exchange rate. So we expect that the central bank to take some further steps in what we call tightening the monetary policy in coming weeks and month.
As everyone knows, these days political situation is very unhappy. So do you have any idea about that, sir?
No, basically what we can see at the moment is due to difficulties, the economic difficulties, people started agitation or basically asked government to go home or step down. The farmers started first, and then youth started and brought it to the Colombo center. And they have made an impact, and the former president stepped down, and the prime minister and the entire cabinet. But you cannot go on with all these protest on the road and other agitation and occupying places. You cannot keep going on. You cannot move this way, because we know that we are in a big economic issue, and we need to basically support the ordinary people's economic life. And so that now I think the protesters must understand they have to graduate their struggle from the street demonstration or the protest to another level where they could continue without disturbing the daily life of ordinary people. Because otherwise what happens is that we will get into a bigger crisis. This crisis could expand further, leading to a chaotic situation, and that is not, I think, conducive for ordinary people, conducive for business people. And if that happens, that could lead to even the close of some businesses, foreign investors to go abroad and decided to leave the country. So we need to avoid that. Finally it could lead even to a situation of Haiti or Somalia, and we don't want to go to that extent. I think this and at this stage, all political parties should get together and find a solution for the present economic crisis, rather than encouraging people to come to Colombo and protest against the government and throw it out, That is not an option at this moment. If we do so, what will happen? We will further dig our own graveyard, and it will be a very pathetic situation. The country can turn into a very pathetic situation. So we need to avoid that, and we need to support the present government. All the political parties and the general public should support the present government and get out of this current situation, and later on we can discuss political reforms and various other rights and everything.
In current economy, we can see a lot of youth people are protest against this government. They become the go home go to concept also. So as a university lecturer, so what kind of guide you can give these protest people?
Yes, I think now as youth, it is natural that they develop some interest in politics, and they want to see some changes, in particular the rapid changes into the system, because they have some suspicion with respect to the way things happen, and so I think now due to those factors, actually they started a very what we call the non-violence protest to begin with, that goal pace, and it got greater popularity later on, and many trade unions and then the other organization supported them a lot, and internationally also they received a greater recognition. And now we have come to a situation, and some of the initial objectives were met, and they were able to win some of their demands. Now we have a challenge how we can accommodate them in this governing process in a way that giving them a fair hearing, giving them fair opportunities for them to engage in governing activities. Now the present president has proposed a system where what we call that sectoral committees in the parliament, through which youth voices could be heard, and youth could be given some opportunities to express their concerns and contribute, provide their ideas for the development of the country. But I think to me, my understanding, it should be expanded further. The youth, we know that we have a parliamentary system where the political, we have election for the local government, election for the provincial council, and election for the parliamentary election. Then within the next 1 to 2 years time, we are sure that local election will be there, then the provincial election will be there. So if the youth can get organized and provide their policy framework and their what is their basically the policy on economy, policy on say on various other national issues such as the education, environment, and like that, they can basically educate people and context those elections, get into the local government, get into political provincial council, and later on they can in the basically context for the parliamentary election as well. So that is how they can use the existing mechanism in getting power and basically contributing to the development of the country, either in the in the area of politics or in the area of economy. Other than that, if we really would like to immediately, if we want to get their contribution, this parliamentary select committee, sectoral select committee, is one of the way through which that they could be accommodated. I am sure that at the moment I don't have time to discuss this in detail, but right now the sectoral committees at the parliament try to accommodate some youth representatives. I mean through them, I am sure that youth can raise their voices, and it is very important youth are given a chance to express themselves in a democratic manner, because otherwise they could turn into a violent moment. We have witnessed in 71, 89, 88, 89 and also in the north. So we don't need to see a repetition of that again in the country, and we need to get out of this any violent moment.
So before the wind up these sessions, I would like ask another important question as a youth. So these youth can trust this government, sir?
We have to reform the system in a way that the youth, not only the youth but also the general public in the country can have a trust. Now what is missing here is not the individuals who get into those positions, but the system is corrupt. System is corrupt, no matter who enter into that get corrupted. It is same education system. People get out of after graduation either obtaining a degree or after A level. Some join the public sector, others join the private sector. We know that public sector workers are inefficient compared to the private sector workers. Why it happen? It happens because of the institution with which we work. If the institution do not provide incentive for us to work hard, work efficiently, be honest, then you can't expect such things from the people. So the private sector provide incentives in such a way that people have to work hard, have to be honest, and have to cooperate with others. That is why they are more productive, efficient. So what we need to reform is, we need to reform the institutions, existing laws, regulation, in a way that we provide right incentives, then we will get the right people and hard working people. So we cannot trust, we cannot have a trust on an individual, but we have to have a system that we can trust. That is how we need to build the trust, not just the youth, but even for the general public. For that we need greater reforms.
Okay, now I like to wind up this valuable discussion. Thank you, Dr. Priyanka Dunasinghe, for your valuable time.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a nice day.